Jeff, what did you think when going back to Hunter? What did you think when he was basically point blank? Do you see Hunter on this team? Because there's only two results here. It's either they extend him or they make him happy or they trade him, and he dodged that pretty well and said, he's a great person. First of all, I'm glad he's here or whatever. From how I look at it, I mean Hunter's. It's the end of July and their team's put together, and to me it's like I feel like Hunter's got them over a barrel here, and if they end up trading him, well, that's a big loss for Quasi, I think. I mean, because that defense will not be the same.
Yeah, I know. I definitely agree, Mark. And excuse me, I think he's a must-have player for this team this year. When you look at what Brian Flores wants to do defensively with pressure, and Hunter is really the proven commodity as a pass rusher and whatever 3 or 4 time Pro Bowl player. I just think it's very risky if you're putting your eggs in DJ Wanham and Marcus Davenport. They've been good players in their careers. Davenport had 9 sacks 2 years ago in New Orleans, but last year only had a half a sack. He is a former first-round pick, but again, there's questions on him if he can stay healthy. And Wanham has had some good moments with the Vikings. Patrick Jones also, but in this day and age, in a passing-oriented league, you have got to be able to pressure the quarterback. And I think if they're counting on safety blitzes and backer blitzes and so forth to create pressure, it's going to obviously put a lot more pressure on the corners, which is the big issue for this team right now, along with Hunter. And the corners are basically all unproven here, and the top 4 corners from last year are all gone. So if you're counting on Andrew Booth Jr., who's never been healthy for a full season, Caleb Evans had his concussion issues. Even Byron Murphy had a back issue last year. There's so many questions in that cornerback room, and I think Hunter is a must sign. And I also think I don't think it's that difficult a deal to get done if you believe that Danielle Hunter can play at least a couple of years and stay healthy. It's not that hard a deal to do because he's got $5.5 million in base salary and roster bonuses that you can convert into a signing bonus in a new deal. Give him a $20 million signing bonus over whatever 5 years, 4 years. Or put some voidable years in the contract, and they can basically keep the same cap number that's about $13 million on Hunter with an extension. So
isn't that kind of what they did last year with him, Jeff? With his contract, I think it's a 2-year contract that he's sitting on. Or he
really last year they just moved up money from this year's base salary to last year's base salary.
Okay.
And so that was a different deal. I'm talking about doing an extension where you're telling the player, yeah, we believe in you. And you're going to be a quality player for us for several years. He's still only, I think, 28 years old. I just think that you got to get that deal done.
Why haven't they? I mean, it looks like, I mean, you really laid it out well. He's doing this hold-in thing. I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit. But, I mean, they know how valuable he is. They know how much they need him, and they have some money, and his agent knows how much money there is that is out there. Why aren't they getting this done? Why hasn't it been done yet? Because they have to have him. I guess I don't understand that strategy.
Well, I think obviously Hunter's camp is looking for something in the range of where guys like Khalil Mack are as kind of the second level pass rushers. I don't think he's looking for TJ Watt money at $27-28 million a year. And we know Nick Bosa is going to soon sign for probably $30 a year to be the top pass rusher in the league. TJ Watt is is there now at whatever, 27-28 a year. And so is Nick Bosa's brother, Joey. He's around there. And so, but then that next level, you got Khalil Mack, you got Bradley Chubb down in Miami around 22-23, which is where Hunter probably should be in terms of total compensation, right around that low 20s. And I would structure the deal with some incentives, with some per game active roster bonuses. So you say, okay, Danielle, if we're going to pay you whatever, 21, 22, 23, you're going to have to be on the field to earn it. We're going to put a couple $1 million in roster bonuses and maybe some incentives for over 10.5 sacks, so it's not likely to be earned, and try and make him get back to that 15 sack a year level that he was at. And so, as I said, I don't think it's that hard a deal to get done if you believe that Danielle Hunter can stay healthy, be an impact player for at least 2 to 3 years. Then you do the deal because he's not that old. If you're not sure about that, then it's a problem. And so either the Vikings aren't that sure, or Hunter's asking for more money than that 22, 23 million a year deal, or so that I think the Vikings would probably give him, as they're probably going to be forced to do.
My thing with this is that, like you said, maybe the Vikings are, feel this way or that way. My feeling is these are like March and April things that should have been taken care of, not like on the eve of training camp, in training camp. I think it's a big error so far in the timing for Kwesi. They've got themselves into a situation now where it's, and also in order to make, I think, Davenport realize his potential, he needs Danielle on the other side. Otherwise, these offensive coordinators are going to, if Davenport, realizes his potential, they can always, and there's no one else on the other side, they can kind of move it around. Just seems like this is something that has to be done. And part of me wonders if maybe Danielle just doesn't want to be here. He didn't feel. I don't think he was really thrilled with the 3-4 last year. I would think he's going to be used a little more aggressively this year. But I part of me wonders if maybe he just wants out.
Well, I think if that was the case, I think the agent would be making more noise about that and demanding a trade, as happens often in the business. And so I don't necessarily think that's the factor here. Okay. And in some respects, Mark and Joe, sometimes there's a method to the madness. And I go back to my negotiations back in the 90s with Robert Smith as an example, with a player who had a lot of injuries early in his career. And Robert always wanted to sign shorter deals, and he would hold out until about 2 weeks before the regular season started. Now, I knew what he was doing. I knew what his MO was. Mm-hmm. Honestly, I didn't mind it, because even though the coaches were saying, "Where's Robert? Where's Robert?" I would say he'll be here, because he knew the system. He'd come in shape. Now, in this case, Hunter is here. He's in the meetings. He's learning the system. I'm sure he's going through walkthroughs. And so do you really need Danielle Hunter on the practice field in early August, late July, early August? You certainly aren't going to play in preseason games. And do you really want him exposed in the joint practices where he could get hurt against the Titans and the Cardinals? Or do you think really kind of that the true deadline for Danielle Hunter might be 2 weeks before the regular season? Because the guy's a phenomenal athlete. He's going to be in shape. He's going to stay in shape. And so why do you need him exposed in training camp practices, banging heads with Brian O'Neill and Christian Darrisaw, if you can wait until 2 weeks before the season and get him ready to go? I think the true deadline really was not April, was not even start of training camp in my mind. It's really a couple weeks before the regular season.